All right, and continuing on the discussion of politics, joining me right now, my good friend John Dadian, our political analyst. And, you know, John, we've obviously seen a lot of these stories on the Iowa caucuses coming up. You know, as far as the presidential, race, it's just a lot of different things going on.
We really have never seen it shifting this much and this frequently. Really, the last 2 weeks, everybody's been up and down. And if you remember, a month or so ago, even Michelle Bachmann was up. So we really, 4 years ago, what we saw, and usually happens, is it usually breaks near Election Day, except when there's no major surprises. We don't know what's going to happen Tuesday in Iowa.
And, I mean, when it comes to, the race, I mean, like we said, Newt Gingrich, he's been going up and down, up and down. Mitt Romney obviously focusing on his, the race against, President Obama. But, when it comes down to Tuesday, really, what do you see as, might be happening?
Here's the interesting thing about Newt Gingrich is you have these super PACs that are separate from the campaigns, but both the Romney super PAC and the Perry super PAC, they targeted Gingrich, and that is what brought his numbers down. So Romney saw it as possibly Gingrich coming up, so he was scared. Perry saw it that he had to overtake him. So that's the interesting thing. We don't know what's going to happen Tuesday. I think, I'm not making a prediction, but I think there's a very good chance Ron Paul could finish first, and that would really send a lot of shockwaves through the Republican Party, because the establishment is very worried about this candidate.
Right, right. And something else, too, that I think is on everybody's mind, too, is the end of the Iraq War. How's that going to affect this?
Well, it's going to certainly going to affect the campaign going through June if things start deteriorating in Iraq, and a lot of military analysts think that's a very legitimate fear. So I don't think it's going to affect Tuesday because that's already been addressed, et cetera, but it's absolutely still going to be a campaign issue in 2012.
It is going to be very interesting, and I mean, we're still hearing from some people that, we heard from before, maybe not so much lately, but you said, you had something interesting about Sarah Palin, too.
Well, they have these super PACs, and normally they go with the traditional names. One is Restore America, one is Make Us Great Again, that's a Perry PAC, et cetera. There's actually still today a draft Sarah Palin PAC that they're actually airing commercials this week in Iowa, and the name of the PAC is called Sarah Palin's Iowa Earthquake.
Too funny. All right, well, let's kind of change gears to locally here now. And something else that people are paying attention to is our mayor race for San Diego. What do you see, going on there?
There's a major benchmark coming up. At the end of this year, meaning just in a couple days, the last day of the year, is the end of fundraisings. The last week, I've gotten tens of emails from each candidate saying, can you get that last check-in, et cetera. So that deadline will hit December 31st, and then 30 days later is when it will become public. That's what everybody's holding their breath waiting to see. Who's raised the big money, and that's going to perhaps separate candidates. If a candidate is seen as a major candidate but hasn't raised money, that's going to send strong signals both to their supporters and their opponents.
Any predictions?
I think I've always said that, some people say that right now there's two major candidates and the other two are down in the polls. I've always said that I think coming all the way up to June is going to be a very close four-way tie with the four major candidates. Keep in mind, there's a total right now, officially with paperwork at the City Hall, 15 candidates. If they get 1 or 2 points each, et cetera, so everybody's absolutely saying that it will definitely be a runoff. Technically, somebody could win in June, but realistically, it'll be a runoff and keep going until November.
And 15 candidates, I mean, that is just, that's an enormous span.
Well, one of the perennial candidates, there's been 3 that have already dropped out, and one of those is perennial candidates, Locke David Crane. And believe it or not, he has a constituency.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, as always, John.
Very good.
All right. Well,